You did what? You went where? People have no idea. And actually, quite a lot of glider pilots still have no idea. The 18-metre machines, they hit the sweet spot. They've more or less got the nimbleness of the little gliders, and they've more or less got the performance of the big gliders. This is going to be the last worlds I do. And after that, I'm going to focus purely on silly flights.
Welcome to the Soaring Show, Liz. I wanted you on the show because you are a very experienced pilot. You've done a lot of very, very exciting things. You're part of the British team. You're competing this year as well. And when we were talking earlier this year at Lasham, you said you had a really interesting story about your glider and why you love the class your glider flies so much. So I think, first of all, let's start with a bit about you and who you are and what do you do? I'm
Liz Sparrow. I am by trade a production engineer, although I worked for myself for years and years and years, and now I'm retired. So I can go flying every day. I wish. It doesn't quite work like that. And everybody who retires finds that actually you get busier. And so I've been doing a number of other things, mostly volunteering in gliding. I'm an instructor, so I instruct on the rotor at Shelbourne Soaring, where my glider is based at Lasham, and my glider is an ASG 29, which I am totally and utterly in love with. But I also run the BGA's Go Gliding programme, which is a programme designed to increase diversity in gliding. I'm a member of the British gliding team, as you say. I first qualified for the Women's Worlds years ago, and I'll be flying in the Czech Republic at Zabrazovice next month.
We talked about your ASG then, because you said that was your desire.
So I used to fly in club class until relatively recently, because I started flying in 1990, and I think I've had the ASG for 5 years now. So I was flying a Cirrus. And my lovely mate Jeremy said, "Would you like to go in my ASG 29?" And I went, "Oh, that would be nice." It turned out to be the most expensive aerotow I have ever taken in my life, because I came back and went, "Oh my God, I've got to have one." And I used to have a share in a Nimbus 4 DT. Huge, great glide angle, but goodness me, hard work to fly compared to a club class machine. The 18-metre machines, they hit the sweet spot. They've more or less got the nimbleness of the little gliders, and they've more or less got the performance of the big gliders. And as we know, stuff is coming out, new stuff, new ideas coming out all the time. And it used to be that you had to trade handling for performance, and that's just no longer the case, which is just amazing. So the wonderful thing about an 18-metre glider, of course, is you can go off and do silly flights. And so what I want to talk about is really camera tip. Now, many people will have heard of CAMRA, which is the campaign for Real Ale. Well, camera tip is the campaign for Real TPs. None of this junction 13 on the M1 business. We want real TPs, or TPs that you can't necessarily easily get to for various reasons. And I sort of blame Harry Joint for this originally, who was directing the nationals at Lasham when there was the club class and opens there. And there was the day of days happened during the competition. Unusual, but it did. And he sent us off the club class off, I think the open class, I think, did 660k that day or something. Ours was a mere 500k. And we went up into Wales, back down south of Birmingham, and up into East Anglia. And just the change in terrain. I mean, clearly when you're racing, you don't have much time to look out the window, but it was spectacular. We were looking up towards the hills of the Mind, and of course, all the Shropshire hills, that they look a bit like a sleeping dragon curled up, very, very pretty. And then you fly across to East Anglia, and it's big blocks of colour like a Mondrian print. Just so different. And I thought, this is fun, isn't it? And then Bill Craig, who was directing the club class up at Dunstable, one year. He sent us off to turn Hunstanton Lighthouse. And I mean, what's not to like about turning lighthouses? It's just such a silly thing. You fly all the way to the coast and you turn the lighthouse, and you get to see the sea. It's wonderful. One of the nice things about flying out of Lasham, of course, is that we often go along the south coast. And okay, it's the southeast, which isn't ideal, but it's still so pretty. And the sun is shining on the sea. And I absolutely love competition flying. I really love competition flying, and I'm looking forward to flying the Worlds. I like everything about it. I like the fact that, particularly for an international, it lasts a fortnight. So you have to be so disciplined. You know, you have to every day for the best part of a fortnight. You have to get up, get the glider ready, go to briefing, go fly the task. It's often a long day. Get back, debrief, sleep. Do it all again tomorrow. So you have to, just the sort of timing and the organisation, the whole process of doing it, I find fascinating. But it does undoubtedly get in the way of doing some other stuff, and especially now that we have your team flying, so you have to learn how to communicate with your partner, which is great. But we have things like the pilot event marked starts, which need quite a lot of practice. And so this is going to be the last Worlds I do. And after that, I'm going to focus purely on silly flights. And just recently, I mean, some of the things we've done in the last couple of years, flying to the far side of Cornwall and back mostly, turning Portland Bill, another lighthouse. Strangely, not a BGA turnpoint, or it wasn't then. So a real TP, I think, is a TP that it would be jolly to turn for any reason. Might be because it's pretty, castles, whatever. Might be because it's difficult to get to, hidden kind airspace, I don't know. Or perhaps in airspace you can't normally go into. So, or just somewhere really scenic. Why not? And here's me and Jeremy flying together towards Portland Bill, which is right out at the end of the bill that you can see there. In fact, there is the Isle of Portland, very splendid, great Dorset landmark. And as you can see, we flew all the way out to the very end and back. Just on the right there, you've got my turnpoint photo. I was never any good at taking turnpoint photo pictures. In the days when we used to have to take pictures to prove we'd been around places, I used to usually have to do the flight 2 or 3 times in order to do it. But as you can see, we did it. It was great fun. So, and in fact, it was easy that day. Quite a lot of the time, it wouldn't be possible to get out there, like going across to the Isle of Wight.
So I've seen quite a movement in this direction with gliding. I think Chris Gill talked about this as well. As he also enjoys like this competition enterprise-esque flying now, less about racing and more about going out and exploring.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, with things like the Arcus, the 18-meter machines, you have a really high chance of getting around something utterly stupid, and a high chance of your turbo starting and being able to get back even if you can't.
So you said this is something specifically for 18 meters, but I mean, you could do trips like that in a serious trip.
It's completely not. And remember, you know, it's only very recently that I've been doing it in an 18-meter machine. I used to land out more. I mean, because if you are trying long, complicated tasks, well, some of the time you're going to get round and some of the time you're not quite going to get round. And I stopped counting land outs when I got to 100. So, you know, it's quite nice to be a fair chance of guaranteed to get back. That's Dungeness over in Kent. So rather, you know, again, an amazing territory beneath over on Romney Marsh and so on, and Dungeness out at the very point there.
It's very pretty.
Here's Dover Marina, flying along into Dover Marina. And can you see the ferries going out of the ferry port there?
Yes, I can, yeah.
And what you probably, I don't know if you can see it, but just at the bottom of that arrow is a little white blob. That's Calais.
Yeah, just
Calais,
wow.
just immediately under that arrow, it's Calais
Nice.
ferry port. Oh, you just sit there and watch the ferries going out there, and think, do you know what? I could get there so easily. I didn't have my passport, but that's definitely something to do at some point, isn't it? It's got to
Oh,
be.
definitely.
I mean, these days, when you look at what Chris did the other day, flying across a stupidly wide piece of water across to Ireland and so on, are just amazing. And we can do these things. One of the things I've wanted to do for ages and ages and ages is to turn Snowdon. You remember that spectacular day when lots of people turned Snowdon?
Yeah, I was not looking at Glide, pretending it wasn't happening.
Oh, you and me both, Dorian. So this was 2 days before that, when there was a forecast that said we might be able to get to Snowdon, but probably cloud base wouldn't be high enough. And Snowdon's just to the left of the centre of that picture. And as you can see, cloud base is going down and nearly meets the top of the hill at this point. And Kim and I were flying out of Lasham, and we got to there and went, you know what? No. And I was on the ground looking up as Pos turned Snowdon on the weekend. So that was yes.
Yeah.
I was torturing myself looking on Glide and Seek.
That switched it off.
And it was you couldn't see any of Wales for little squares of glider numbers on it. It was I was simultaneously going, I'm so pleased for you, I hate you. I'm so pleased for you, I hate you, to all the people that were doing it. I talk about some of the flights I do to people in my village, and they went, you did what? You went where? People have no idea. And actually quite a lot of glider pilots still have no idea.
A lot of glider pilots still fly circuits. They go to the gliding club, they fly a circuit, they land, and that's it. They're very happy and very content.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to say there are other things you can do, and for me, it's about that. And so that's what I really want to focus on for next year, is just going and doing stupid things. Wouldn't it be nice to do 1,000K? Yes. Wouldn't it be nice to do 1,000K as a 500 that way and a 500 back? It's my dream. I may never do it, but I can tell you that Coldstream is 500K from Lasham. That's where you go.
There's been some plans, have there?
Well, it's something that you have to just completely focus on and not do probably too many of the other things that I also do, so that you're available on the day as opposed to not available on the day. But, wouldn't it be nice? So there you go.
We started the conversation talking about the 18-meter class and how that essentially enabled you to do these adventure flights. So I think what would be good to cover is, what do you think was stopping you beforehand from doing it? And then maybe some advice for people who are in that circuit bashing stage and they want to do an adventure flight. How do you plan it? How do you prepare for it? How do you go out and do that? Because there's loads of information about flying competitions, there's loads of information about flying racing tasks, but not so much about adventure flight.
Well, I think first of all, you've got to define your adventure, haven't you? And your adventure depends on who you are, what you've done already, what tickles your fancy, really. So why not just pick something that, I did a really nice flight because a friend of mine I knew was going, so husband Alan's a bell ringer, and we knew some people were going off to one of the cathedrals. So I did a flight that visited cathedrals and sent pictures of the cathedrals that they were visiting back to them, So that was an adventure. So I think find something that it doesn't have to necessarily be terribly far away. It has to be appropriate for what you've got. We used to go and do silly things back when we had club class gliders, go and do fun things. So I think the first thing is to decide what would stretch you a little bit and make you giggle.
When you do these adventure flights, do you take someone with you? Do you fly with a teammate or a friend, or do you just do these on your own as a sort of solo adventure?
Undoubtedly, 2-seat cross-country flying, if you've got a 2-seater, is huge fun with the right person and appalling with the wrong person. And we have a bit of a plan to construct a syndicate that'll make that possible. But and going off and flying, just chatting with, like that picture of me and Jeremy turning Portland Bill. It's good fun if you can. So if you can get a mate who's about the same level as you, who has the same idea of fun as you, then you can go and plot fun things to do. But in the absence of any of that, turn jolly things, go and turn lighthouses, go and turn piers. And in fact, I sent a picture of me walking past a lighthouse to Pos during the week, simply because it was a lighthouse we turned. He and I have a thing going about lighthouses. So and then the question is, what's possible on the day? And what I suggest for people that perhaps aren't so much into that, you don't have to spend any money on the Met apps. I use SkySight, and SkySight's a really great one. It's a paid app, but RASP works perfectly well, doesn't cost you anything. And a number of the clubs have local weather forecasters. So David Masson at Lasham, Nymphsfield have one, Dunstable have one, and have a look on their websites to see what people are thinking generally. Talk to the other people at your club. If your club has a cross-country group, go talk to them. If your club doesn't yet have a cross-country group, find people who are possibly sharing your idea of fun and start to create one. Talk to people who do know. Don't have to be at your club. Find out someone, ask them questions. But the main thing is go off and just have a bit of a go. Make sure that your glider trailer is serviceable before you do. If you're not, a lot of people I find are not terribly confident about landing out. So go and refresh yourself with motor glider at the start of the year, and pick a time when all the fields have been cut if it's your early cross-country career. But make sure that what you're doing is something that makes you giggle. Pick a turn point that's not just an anonymous place. Pick a turn point that's nice. Look out the window and enjoy turning. That would be my advice.
Yeah.
When you've done it, work out what the next thing on the list is.
So that's some great advice there. Going back to the ASG and 18 meters, I find sometimes there's a blocker of some sort. They don't even realize it's there. Was that the case with the Sirius and the ASG, or was it just a case that you flew the ASG and just felt the potential and that gave you that empowerment?
I think we used to do this stuff in the Sirius for sure. Mm-hmm. There's always a big discussion as to whether you do different stuff in a turbo to what you would do in something that's not a turbo. And it's usually quite a heated discussion amongst those who have and those who don't, and there's a number of people that spit at me and go, motor glider pilot. And I think, having a turbo, it definitely has pluses and minuses, to be honest. So, for example, the other day, I had to fire the turbo up at a sensible and safe height when, in fact, had I not had the turbo, because I motored just like 50 yards further along straight into lift, I would have got away, So, but I think, it does give you and you can't rely on it starting. But it gives you a fair chance of knowing that you're unlikely to have to land it out. I should point out that I have landed my ASG out on 3 separate occasions. So there you are. I don't think landing out was ever a block for me. But I do think that sometimes you think, well, if I run out of day and instead of landing out at 7:30 at night, I can turbo home at 7:30 at night. It gives you the chance to have a beer rather than get home at 3 a.m. So I think that's it's not an advantage, particularly in competition. I don't think Yes, for sure, if you were landing out every day a long way away. But generally speaking, no. And there's days when having a higher wing loading doesn't help. But I think for fun flights, for silly flights, then having a turbo is useful. But it's absolutely not essential. It really isn't. I could have told you any number of fun flights I had in the Cirrus, but because it's club class, they weren't as far away. But, and
So
I
do you
regret
enjoy traveling that distance? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I regret not having done my 750 in the Cirrus, because there was definitely a day. There was a day when Finn and I and a number of other people, but Finn and I were together doing. We did, I think, a 600k FAI triangle, and coming back in, racing along a convergence that was just working all the way back from Birmingham to Lasham. And had we turned around and gone 75k back up it and 75k back down, that would have been 750 in a proper 750 in a proper club class machine. None of this sort of LS3 ASW20 flat jobbies, but the real proper club class machine. But there you go. I didn't do it, and that was a definite huge fun flight, but would have been even more of an adventure if we'd done that. So you asked what were there blockers, and I don't think there were, but I think you set the possible. If my first glider was an Ollie 2B, it's like a K. For those that don't know, it's like a K8 without performance, and you're not going to fly 750k in that, are you? But just flying 100k in it, or a couple of 100k in it, or 300k in it, was just a huge adventure. My silver distance was amazing. I did it out of the Mind, and I'm there. I tried going cross country and landed out a number of times from my home club, and I found myself over Ironbridge. I'm fascinated by industrial archaeology, and I'm there over Ironbridge, looking down at Ironbridge Gorge, looking down at the museum there, and I'm just there in this little scrap of wooden fabric, and I've got there on my own, and I carried on. It was just the most amazing feeling.
Yeah,
it was an adventure, and at the end of it, I got my silver distance. So I think you set something appropriate to what you've got and where you are in your glide career.
So where I was going with that train of thought was my dream glider has always been the Lebel. I've always wanted a Lebel. That was the glider I wanted. When I had finally saved up enough money to buy a glider, I think I was looking at something like an Asteer or something along those lines. And I decided not to get that and keep saving until I could get my Lebel. And now I have it and I love it. And had I had an Asteer, I don't think I'd still be gliding today.
Hey,
so I was wondering
I had an Asteer for 7 years. After the Ollie, I had an Asteer. Absolutely great.
Asteers are fantastic training aircraft, but I don't want to own one. No, but yeah, because it was this aspirational thing that just, it's what I wanted. I love the way they look. I love the way they fly. I now enjoy my flying so much more. So I'm wondering if the ASG 29 was the same thing for you, where it's just because it was just the way it felt, the way it looked,
yes. I mean, it looks drop dead gorgeous. It's ever so pretty. It handles beautifully. And the Cirrus I bought for a reason. I had a Pegasus before, which I really loved, but they changed the handicaps and it was hopeless for club class. And the Cirrus was sensibly handicapped for club class. So it was a deliberate decision to find out whether it was me or the Pegasus that was stopping me win stuff. And I started to win stuff. So, but yes, it's not quite the same to fly. So yes, there's something about my puppy love for the ASG. So
yeah, puppy love is important. I think people underestimate how much more you enjoy doing something if you're doing it with something you love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I find it the same with like cameras, for instance. Cameras can do the same thing. They all really just take pictures, but some are just more fun to take photos with.
Yeah, I think that's it. This is why I say an adventure is what makes you giggle.
So you're giving up competition flying or just international competition flying?
I'm not sure. Definitely international competition flying. I say that now, of course. But as I say, I love the discipline of comps and doing them, and you get to fly on days when nobody in their right mind would fly, and sometimes you even get round, you know. So that's really good for your general flying, but equally it does get in the way of doing the silly things. So next year the focus is the silly thing.
Yeah, well, sometimes you just need a change of scene then. But this is going to be essentially then your last hurrah going to the Worlds.
Yes.
So talk to me about that. How does that work? How does getting ready for that competition work? What do you have to do? And then where are you going? What are you going to be doing?
But so things you have to do, you have to there's all sorts of admin-y stuff you have to do, like just getting sorted yourself and all the paperwork and everything sorted to fly in another country. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you have to do extra certification and so on. Even with an SPL, which I got myself an SPL earlier this year, finally. And
On my to-do list.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to do it sooner rather than later. And then the international rule book is different to the UK rule book. So you have to learn the international rule book, make sure you understand what you need to do, what you need to not do, and the consequences of doing the things you were not supposed to do. As I say, that there are different start procedures, which we don't use very much in the UK at the moment, and just practicing those and getting slick with those. And of course, the other thing that's different about an international is you're flying as a team. You're flying with someone in your class broadly as a team in some or other manner, either closely flying together or loosely flying together. But as a whole team across all of the classes, you're exchanging information where that's useful, trying to do it in a way that not everyone else from all the other nations can hear what it is you're passing on. So there's things like that just to practice. Making sure that the trailer is fit for towing 1,000 miles to the Czech Republic, which is where we're going. It's not as much as 1,000 miles, but I don't know, 1,200 kilometers, something like that. And starting to learn what the territory's like. In fact, we've flown at Bratislava before. The 2017 Worlds was there. It was a really nice, really well-run comp, and so we're really looking forward to it. And flying in the Czech Republic is lovely. It's really nice soaring territory. Super friendly people. We love them all. Hi to all my Czech friends out there. So then the competition itself, an international, you basically have somewhere, and they vary slightly, but the best part of a fortnight of flying days. And in the biblical way, you're allowed to fly for 6 days, and on the 7th day you rest. So, so during that period, there will be a rest day. But there's a practice week beforehand, which is a chance for the pilots to get to know the local area a bit. But it's also as much just a chance for the organisation to get themselves up and running and make sure everything is working. And so every day you have to tow out, you get weighed every day just to make sure that you're not overloading the glider. And you get briefings in these days, generally pretty good English. We have in the past had some interesting variations on English. And to be honest, they've all been much better than my Czech or Hungarian or whatever would be. So then you go back after the briefing and you have a little team briefing, work out what you think is going to happen during the day, when you think you should be going, things to think about. Then you go off and you do it. And you come back, roar through the finish ring, and go and do it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Of course, one of the other things about internationals, there are two things. There's international night. All international competitions have an international night where you bring some national something along, it's generally planned to have a rest day the day after because nobody wants to play Met Roulette. And certainly all of the Eastern Europeans bring some ferocious spirit along and make you drink it in large quantities. And the French bring lots and lots of sausage. The Italians bring parmesan until it's coming out of your ears. We typically forget to bring everything and end up making cups of tea. So no, it's a great, really, really great evening. And
what are you planning for this year then? What are you bringing to the international evening?
I cannot spoil the surprise by telling you.
But it's not.
Seals.
Is it special or is it the classics?
It is a combination of some classics and one or two new ideas. Is all I'm saying.
All right.
The other thing about the women's worlds is that everybody, the pilots bring little gifts to each other. It doesn't happen at the unrestricted ones. So we are just looking and they just small things because you're giving them one to every pilot and all the organisation. Anyone you think might give you penalty points. So that's all very jolly, and it all just sort of partly builds the community. And there's a jolly ceremony called the Baba Yaga ceremony, which introduces new women pilots who've not flown in the worlds before to the sorority of other gliding international women, which is all good fun. So
that sounds really cool. I like the idea of getting presents for going to a competition. That sounds fantastic.
Yes, it is. It's just a jolly little thing to do. So, and some of the nations get sponsored and all sorts. And I mean, it depends who works for who, doesn't it? If you work for BA, for example, you might be able to get some BA stuff. And yeah, we've got on my shelf. I've got a small, beautiful small bottle that came from the Czech Republic that's got some dodgy spirit that I'm never ever going to drink with a little glider on it. Things like that, very jolly. So yeah, that starts. We're going out there in the middle of July. We've got practice week, and then it's basically the last week of July and the first week of August is the competition. And fingers crossed for a load of fun and ideally a good result. And it was great to be such a good result from the team in Tabor, which is just up the road from Zbraslovice. So yeah, we're hoping we can do something similar. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It should be fun. It should be good fun.
Well, I look forward to seeing the results, seeing some pictures, and seeing everything else that you'll be hopefully posting something while you're there, because it'll be nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So between us, we'll sort it out, and we'll be sending little postcards home every night.
You've got to show us some of the gifts you get as well. Obviously, that's quite important. We need to see what's being given away at the Worlds.
Some things that happen in Zbraslovice will stay in Zbraslovice, is all I'm saying.
Fair enough.